Good day and welcome to this episode of CodeAlong with gOZie. We'll be looking at CSS Background. CSS Background properties are used to add background effects to elements. There are so many of these effects, but we'll be looking at the basics in this class. So let's open up our folder, open the VS Code. Okay. Let's create a new page for this. Okay, so we're going to create a new page, CSS Background .html. Okay, then we'll create our basic file and folder structure. Shift 1, enter, then change the title to CSS Background. You hear cars moving in the background. Okay, okay, let's create a div with let's say paragraph. And the paragraph will have 100 characters. So let's look at the page. So this is what we'll have. Let's create a new CSS. A site could have as many CSS files as possible. So let's create one. You click on the CSS folder, background tunes .css. Okay. It's empty, so let's go close the old one. Now let's link it to this page. Remember, it's a link tag. Okay, with the attributes rel value style sheet, then href. I'll ask the browser to locate this style sheet in the CSS folder, and the one I'm looking for is this. Okay. Now, I would like to target the paragraph element P and change the background color. I would like to change it to coral. So let's look at what's the background color. By default, all elements inherit the background color of body, which is white. Okay, white. So we want to change this for the paragraph, which is this. And because the paragraph doesn't have a pattern, you just see that it's the extent of the background color will be just the border, which is glued to the bodies of the text, maybe the longest text. Okay, so let's refresh the page. You just see it's glued to the body of the longest text. So this is how to add background color. Okay. Something we'll talk about later. Colors. Colors do not normally come like this in English. We'll talk about it in colors class. They either come as hex or RGB or RGBA. Okay, so let's look at something else with regards to background color. It's called opacity. Opacity, that's basically the extent of transparency. Okay, so the CSS property name is opacity, and the value is between 0.0 and 1, where 1 is fully opaque and 0 is fully transparent. Okay, so let's give this 0.6. Okay, let's have another paragraph so we get to see the difference. This one will have the ID of special power. Okay, and let's assign this opacity to special. Remember the hashtag for IDs and opacity. Okay, let's copy. Okay, let's just go into the first one. Yes. So you see, it inherits the styling for paragraph because special power is a P. So both of them get this general styling. general element styling for paragraphs, but the one with the ID special para now gets this special styling, which defines opacity. So you can see the difference: 0.8, 0.6, 0.3 will be further transparent. 0.3. Okay, let's just have like let's call this half transparent. Oh, sorry, don't go them apart. Let's have another one. Call it it's further trans, and this will be 0.3. So let's have another one. Let's call it full trans. Let's make it 0.0. Let's see what happens. Okay, and this will have this should have the transparency of just 2. Okay, so let's assign this 3. So we're going to change this to this ID name. Then copy this, make 2 more. Full trans. Let's write it in here so we get to see it. Trans. Half transparent. Okay, so you can see, which is this full trans. Why is it like this? Okay, 0.0. Okay, so when it's fully transparent, you can't see it. Like it's kind of like invisible. Okay, so these are the levels of opacity. Let's look at another background effect, background image. The background image property specifies an image to use as the background of an element. Okay, let's look at how we can use this. Let's create another div here. Okay, let's create the top div, and let's assign the div an ID of banner. Okay, then within here, let's have our h1. Welcome to CodeAlong. Okay. ID banner. Let's okay. Let's assign it a background image. The property name is basically self-descriptive background image, and the syntax is to use the URL method, and within it instruct the browser on how to locate the image. I don't know if we have okay, we have an image here. Okay, I don't like this one. Let's copy another image from my pictures. Let's select a darker one. Okay, let's select this one from the French League one, and we go back within the image folder, paste this. Okay, and now it's available here. Okay, now we are here, and we need to ask the browser to. This is over here. This is the file where background to CSS is here. So we need to ask the browser to leave this folder, so come out of CSS to be able to see the image and then get into the image. Okay, so to come out of the CSS folder to come out of a folder, we use the syntax dot slash. So it's out of the folder. Now it can actually see the image folder. So I'll click on image and click on it too. It's tricky, but You just need to get used to it. To get into a folder, use a slash. To get out of a folder, use a dot slash. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look. Nothing much is happening. Why? We don't have a specified height for this banner. We only have a content h1, which bears the value welcome to CodeAlong, and the div, which by default don't have any height. They just have a height that's equal to the content, because the container tag, its height is just equal to the content it bears. So now it's bearing welcome to CodeAlong. That's why the fact it's black. So let's change it to white. We'll get to that in text class. So color is for text color. So let's make it white. Let's get to see. So that's all. Now remember that the image you're looking at is black. That's why I have all this black here. So the image is there. The only challenge is that we need to assign it a height. So let's do that. What's the height for banner? Height. Let's make it 400 px. Okay, so it starts making sense. The next effect we're gonna deal with is the repeating. You can see that this image is repeating. It should just be one. This is how the image look like. Okay, but you can see it's repeating, and it looks good anyway, but most times you wouldn't want it to repeat. So let's look at how to remove that. Okay, before we go along, you can see that the repeat is both x-axis and y-axis. So that's by default. When the images are not as large as the space is supposed to occupy, they repeat both horizontally and vertically. So let's look at this property called background repeats. So I could have the value no repeat to stop the repeats entirely for both x and y axis. I could have the value repeat x for it to only repeat horizontally, or repeat y for it to only repeat vertically. Okay, but for this exercise, I want it to not repeat. Okay, so you want to know what's what's with all this space. We'll get to that. Okay, the next property we're going to look at, the next background effect we're going to look at, is background position. It is used to, okay, background, let me type it down, background position, background position. It is used to stipulate where the initial positioning of the image. By default, images are initially positioned top left from here. Okay, top left. Now, if you assign the value top right or top right, okay, first of all, it's top left, which means the x is top. No. It's initially assigned left top. The x is the first one, left. Then the y is the second value, top. So this is basically, I think it's left top. That should be the default one. So nothing happens. That's the default one, left top. So let's make it left bottom to see. That's, we are changing the y-axis, left bottom. Okay, you can see it hits the bottom of the page. So let's make it bottom, right bottom. It moves to the bottom right, same as right top. Okay, we can also have center top, center bottom, and center. We can have center bottom too. and my favorite, the center. Okay, which has a shortcut, just one value, center. It centers for both. Why would I want to do this? Let me leave it at the default one to show you why I would like to use the center. Now, if your site is viewed from a okay, let's move to the mobile. Okay, it doesn't portray the let me refresh first. Okay, I'll try again. Now, if your site, while your site resizes, if you leave your site as the default one, which is the left top, as it's resizing, the image will be adjusted from the right. It will be, okay, my browser cannot go beyond this. So that's it. It's just losing values from the right. Okay, let me adjust it from here so you can see. You can see the image is not losing value, it's just losing space from the right. Now let's move this to the right so to get to see it again. Right top. Good. So see, I wouldn't want it to be like this. I would like a situation where no matter the size of the screen, I would like the image to be at the middle. That's why I have this. That's why I like using the center. So whatever the size of the screen, the image will readjust to be at the middle. So no matter what, it will always be at the middle. You see that it's resizing both the space here and the space here to ensure that the image is at the middle. You also include the height too. It will keep readjusting the height to ensure that the image is at the middle. That's why I like using the background position center. Okay, the next background effect we're going to look at is the background attachment. This specifies if the image will scroll as the page is scrolling. Okay, by default it's on scroll, but let's change the value to fixed and comment it off so to get to see that it scrolls first before we see the effect. Okay, so when the page scrolls, you can see scrolling, it's losing space at the top, so it's scrolling. Now let's make it fixed so that it stops scrolling. Refresh. Okay, you can see it's no longer scrolling. Every item, scrolls at the top of it, scrolls over it. That's what I mean. Sorry for the wrong construction. So every other thing scrolls over it. The final effects we're going to look at, of all, there's so many of them, like I said, but we're going to have the basic ones. Background size. I believe that's what I'm looking for. Background size. Okay, so these are the common values we're looking at. If you use the value contain, what happens is the browser starts stretching this image, and whichever side hits the boundaries first, it stops. From this image, I think the x-axis will get to the boundaries first before the y-axis will. So let's refresh. Okay, no, sorry, the y-axis got to the boundary first before the x-axis. So you can see as soon as the image got to 400 px and it hit the top and hit the bottom, it stopped. Now I don't normally like this. I always want my image to stretch to fill the space that is provided. So if you want that, change the value from contain to cover. It will center the image, cover it to the boundaries of the div or whatever the background is assigned to. And for this image, I will advise you, don't use an image that's as small as this. I use this for because it fits the effect I want to show you. If you want to use an image as a background image, please try to make the image as large as possible so you don't get to stretch it as much as this is stretched. If you look at the image, it doesn't really look good. Okay, and it's a beautiful effect.